Another buy versus rent video. What is this guy gonna do different? Graphs, bitch! I'ma spread you all over Bill's sheets. Unlike every other buy versus rent video where they just Google the question and then just copy whatever article pops up first, I assume because they are all literally the same video, I thought I'd pop open the old Microsoft Grid Spreader, change the name from Book 1 to Book 69, and start crunching some digits, even though I know nothing about statistics. All in hopes to have someone much smarter than me tell me I have nice sheets. Okay, so here's the question I want to answer. If instead of buying a house and getting a mortgage, a person rents their entire life and invests the difference into stocks, will they be potato? Potatoes have a lot of potassium. Potassium has an elemental letter K, and K is millennial slang for okay. This video is not getting any better. Before we crunch, I'd like to request a few assumptions. 1, the average property appreciation is 4%. And 2, the average index fund return is 10%. Real estate is notorious for wealth creation, and this video is not about proving that wrong, but instead to see if there are any scenarios in today's world where investing in stocks comes out on top. That's what she said. So we're gonna look at one of the most expensive and pretentious cities on earth, LA. Let's say we wanna live in a 3-bed, 2-bath house. That's 1 bedroom for you and 2 bathrooms for me, because I'm lactose intolerant. And we want a house instead of an apartment because we don't wanna climb 7 flights of stairs 3 times a day. And elevators are scary. I found this one for $1.7 million, which just confirms that we live in a dystopian simulation because that's way too much money for a cube made out of twigs. In this one right next to it, that's renting for $6,800 a month. We are cherry picking here. I get it, deal with it. Since the house costs like a lot, we have to get a jumbo loan. And yes, that's actually what they're called. Right now, they're going for a 6.7% interest rate with a 20% down payment. In this case, it's a 20% down payment because it's $340,000. Now every month we are not only gonna pay the principal and interest on the loan, but we're also gonna slide a little bit of moolah to that one uncle that's been wearing the same thing since the 1850s. Bro, take your hat off, we're inside. And hello, your toilet backed up and flooded everything. We also wanna pay for home insurance. Oh yeah, and I'm gonna do everything on an annual basis. Compounding monthly would be ideal, but way too much work. This should still show the general idea. Your principal and interest will stay the same over 30 years, but most people don't realize that your taxes and home insurance will increase pretty much every year. Taxes increase based on the assessed value of the house, and insurance increases by about 5% based on this graph I found. Adding all this up gives us the amount we would pay every year. We're gonna call it a mortgage. Remember this, we'll need it later. Doing some fancy math to figure out the equity in the property gives us a net worth. Expanding this crap over 30 years with our assumption that the average appreciation is 4% gives us numbers. Let's chat about rent for a little bit. Rent increases by about 3.5% every year. Okay, that's pretty much it. End of chat. We would pay this much in rent every year. We would pay this much if we bought a house. Subtraction, we get this. I keep saying this because I did not finish my research before filming this video. The last number is what we would throw into an index fund, like the S&P 500, which would return about 10% every year. Remember, we assumed this per my request? Oh, also in the first year, we're gonna invest the down payment we would have made if we bought. Expand this over 30 years, and we get, that's right, more numbers. Important note here, in this example, we're adjusting for rent increase by spending the same amount renting as we would owning. It's just in the first 22 years, we're taking the difference and investing it. And then in year 23, we start to withdraw from our investments to pay for the rent increase. Confused? Great. So every single year we would pull out our slim and very heavy minimalistic wallets because they are now made out of metal for some reason and pay the mortgage, or take that same amount and pay rent. If that amount is more, like in year 1, we would invest the difference. If that amount is less, like in year 30, we would withdraw from our investments to cover the difference. Dude, it's like impossible to do this in real life. Blah. I get it. The only reason I'm doing it this way is to adjust for the argument that owning is better because rent increases every year. This way, we don't have to worry about rent increasing. Let's compare our work that I did without any of your help. In this very specific scenario, renting wins, mostly because there was a humongous initial investment. In fact, after about 16 years, you would theoretically be able to buy the original house outright. Well, more like 18 years because you would have to pay capital gains tax if you just yanked all the money out of an index fund. Once again, I cannot stress this enough that it is a unique example. It changes completely if you go in the opposite direction and look at one of the cheapest states, like say Kansas, as in the wheat-thin state. They got a lot of wheat. In this case, renting is like giving a stranger money, then getting on your knees and begging that said stranger to punch you in the throat 5 times. Since I don't know where you live, yet, I can't say where you fall in this spectrum, but most of the time, buying will make you more money. The main reason for that is when you buy, you're benefiting from the appreciation on the entire place, even though you may only own like 20%. Versus with an index fund, where your return is based 100% on the amount you have invested. It seems like nowadays a lot of people think that buying a house is some sort of a fantasy. I guess my main point is that you could still create some wealth without buying a crib. In very expensive markets though. And the interest rate has to be high. And you have to have a lot of money to start out with. If you like what you saw, check out some of my other videos. Thank you.
The rat goes like this, like this, like this. You are now a normal rat.